we're going to be talking about vaping and refusal skills. So we're going to be discussing exactly what vaping is and the chemicals inside the vapes, how it can harm the body. So you may or may not have noticed there's a lot of youth using these products, and they come in different smells. So if you've ever been around one of these products, they can smell like candy or fruit. And we're going to talk. That's what we're going to be discussing is how these products, work and what they do.
Vaping is inhaling a vapor created by an electronic cigarette or some other device. Initially, vaping was intended to be a substitute for cigarette smoking. However, we found over time that vaping products have been altered so that you can inhale other substances, such as marijuana products, CBD oil, and other things that kids want to and adults want to inhale.
In the United States, you've got a market that is really not well regulated. It's possible for manufacturers to put these dangerous chemicals into the liquids. But in addition to that, you've got this varied legalization of cannabis and heavy usage of cannabis oil. Put the two together and you've got a very dangerous situation.
So the danger with this is that it produces aerosol and not water vapor. And why is that dangerous? Well, it contains nicotine. It also contains ultrafine particles that can be inhaled deep into the lungs and cause the lung damaging. It has flavorings such as diacetyl, so that's a chemical that creates all these sweet flavors and fruit. And it's also a chemical linked to serious lung disease. It has volatile organic compounds. So this is also misleading because a lot of people see the word organic and they already think, oh, it must be safe because it's organic. That's not the case here. These are cancer-causing chemicals, and they also have heavy metals such as nickel, tin, and lead. So these are found on the vapes themselves, right? So over time, they start to erode, or they start to be used up, and some of these chemicals that these vapes are made out of start going into the body.
So other than nicotine, what else is in them? The liquid contains glycerol or propylene glycol, which is the substance that makes the visible vapor. Also, trace amounts of heavy metals from the heating elements can be inhaled.
Heavy metals are not the sort of thing you want to be inhaling in any amount. It's fair to say that we don't really know the long-term effects that these are going to have on anyone who vapes. Indeed, for any of the components of e-cigarettes.
So let's talk a little bit about the chemicals. What are the chemicals in them? So some of these chemicals are found in everyday products, like propylene glycol is found in deodorant, soap products, toothpaste, house paint. Glycerin is found in aerosol disinfectant, weight control, acne medicine, soap. Formaldehyde is found in cosmetics, glue, rug, upholstery, body wash. So notice that all these products are not meant to be ingested or swallowed or inhaled. So that's what makes them so dangerous, right? Because these are chemicals that are found in these products. Now, sometimes they can be labeled as nicotine-free, but that can be misleading because it's not just a flavoring. It can contain small amounts of nicotine, but we just don't know how much nicotine that can be. So that's what I mean by traces of nicotine. And as well as the harmful products like the chemical and metals. And sometimes they may be considered as safe, but they do have short-term and long-term health consequences.
There was yet another death connected to the use of e-cigarettes.
The toll linked to vaping is climbing tonight.
His infected lungs nearly collapsed.
Colorado's first case of a rare vaping-related illness.
America has been in the grip of a health scare over e-cigarettes. Since April 2019, 60 deaths and over 2,500 hospital cases have been reported in America. The American Medical Association and the Centers for Disease Control advised the country's 11 million vapers to quit.
Some of the side effects of vaping, it can cause mouth and airway irritation, cough, increased airway resistance. It causes chest pain. It can cause increased blood pressure, increased heart rate, and it can get the person sick, such as vomiting and nausea. So these are the immediate effects of vaping. So that right away when the person uses this, they can get sick right away. Long-term effect, I mentioned the word popcorn lung earlier. Long-term effect can cause this. So on the left, we have a normal lungs, and on the right, we have the popcorn lung. So that chemical I mentioned earlier, diacetyl, is what causes the flavoring. So that chemical gets left behind in the lungs, and with heat, every time the person uses these devices, some of the heat goes in the lungs, and they call it popcorn lung because it kind of looks like popcorn, but basically it's scarring of the lung. And it's kind of like, if you think about a bag of popcorn, when you put it in the microwave, it has oils in it, and it heats up the kernels, and it causes the popcorn to pop, right? So it's kind of like the same thing, not exactly, but similar, right? The oils kind of stay behind in the lungs, and heat keeps being introduced into the lungs, and eventually starts causing the scarring. And that's kind of why they called it the popcorn lung. So a lot of times when you're at the convenience store, you may have noticed that these are on the counter or where the clerk is. So they do that on purpose. So the counter is kind of like at eye level of a child, right? Someone that's not 5 foot or 6 foot, right? So they do this on purpose so that way children can already start seeing these products. These are some of the tricks, and there are tricks that these manufacturers or these producers that make these products do on purpose, because they know about addiction and they know who their target audience is. They know that if they produce these flavors, the sweet and the fruit flavors, they know they can go after kids, right? And they know how easily addicting this can be for kids, right? So there are little things that they do to start marketing or advertising to youth.
In 2018, the global e-cigarette market was valued at $15.7 billion. It's expected to almost triple by 2023. Appealing flavors have helped the vaping industry to flourish.
I've got a blue raspberry candy, a strawberry kiwi custard. One of my favorites, whipped peanut butter and caramel. It tastes great.
But the many flavors have caused an uproar in America.
Cherry Crush. How can you sit here and say you're not marketing to children?
In early 2020, President Trump banned almost all flavors of e-cigarette cartridges across the nation. And globally, e-cigarettes are now entirely banned in 30 countries.
Now, if you do come across vaping, either from friends or family members, it could be cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever it may be, look at the person, just say no thanks. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Say it many times as you need to. So when you look at the person in the eye, it shows that you're confident and you really don't want to do this. If you're kind of hesitant about it, saying, I don't think so, then that's where the peer pressure can come in and say, come on, you'll like it. That's peer pressure when they're trying to get you to start. Say why you don't want to vape. I mean, we've gone over a lot of information here, so you can, use any of this information and say that, the dangers of it. Walk away. You can walk out. Offer another idea. If it's a friend or family member, you could just say, let's go do this instead. Nah, let's go do this. Let's do something else. Ask for respect. If they start peer pressuring you, just ask them, hey, why don't you respect me? That this is not cool. Or think ahead also. So think about, okay, what happens if you are offered this, right? And they start peer pressuring you. What are you going to say? Are you going to be able to talk your way out of it? So you can start thinking about it. Okay, so this happens, and I say no, and if it doesn't work, what else can I say? Start thinking about it, because it may happen. It may happen this year, it may happen next year, or it may happen when you're in high school. So what else can you do to make a difference? Learn the facts, so everything I just mentioned about vaping and nicotine, dispel any myths, so you may hear, oh, it's harmless, it's just water vapor. You can say, no, it's not, it's actually aerosol, right? So, dispel any myths. Know what tobacco and vaping industries are targeting you to make money and hook you on their products. So learn the tricks. I gave you a few tricks that they use. So next time you're at the store, see what tricks you find that these companies are using to get you to buy into their products. Think about the ads that you may have seen and what you thought. Ask yourself, is the message the same? Do they all advertise the same danger?
My customers come from a wide variety of backgrounds, ages. The average customer is a middle-aged professional, but they do have one thing in common, and that's a desire to quit smoking. Do you want another?
Yeah, I'll get another.
Yet, there is major concern that vaping is appealing to increasingly younger customers.
The device has now hooked countless teenagers.
In 2018, the Food and Drug Administration reported an alarming increase in high school students vaping, a 78% increase in 2018 alone.
I am officially declaring e-cigarette use among youth an epidemic in the United States.